What does it really mean to become American? Is it a dream earned, or a gate passed through by luck, fear, and judgment? At Ellis Island, millions wagered everything on the answer, and not all of them won. This isn't just a story of arrival. It's a story of power, resilience, contradiction, and a nation caught between its highest ideals and deepest insecurities. Stay with us, because the truth about this small island may reshape how you see the American identity. By the late 1800s, the Atlantic wasn't a frontier. It was a funnel. Ships groaned with humanity. Irish fleeing famine, Italians fleeing poverty, Jews fleeing pogroms and persecution. They endured weeks in steerage, packed like cargo, surviving on moldy bread, brackish water, and hope. Their destination, a narrow outpost in New York Harbor called Ellis Island. It opened in 1892, and by 1907, more than 1.25 million people arrived in a single year. That's one person every 2 minutes. But here's the twist. On January the 1st, 1892, the very first day of operations, Annie Moore, a 15-year-old Irish girl, stepped ashore to cheers. Hours later, another girl, also 15, died of heart failure aboard a nearby ship. Ellis Island opened with a birth and a death. That duality would define its legacy. The welcome to America moment? It lasted 6 seconds. That's how long doctors took to inspect each person in the Great Hall. They scanned faces for fear, backs for curvature, eyes for disease. If something looked off, they chalked a letter on your coat. An X for mental illness. H for heart trouble. L for lameness. E for eye disease. Those letters were death sentences for dreams. Suspected of mental illness, you might be handed a wooden puzzle and told to solve it quickly, despite the fact you didn't speak English and had just spent 2 weeks seasick and terrified. Marked individuals were sent to the Ellis Island Hospital, the largest public health facility in America at the time. Over 3,500 immigrants died there, most from diseases caught aboard ship. Many were buried without names. And children. If they were detained while their parents passed, they clung to the iron fence that separated them, crying out in languages no one understood. But the tests didn't stop at the body. Some were about something even harder to define: morality. America called itself a land of opportunity, but Ellis Island often operated more like a moral sieve. Women traveling alone were especially scrutinized. If they couldn't prove a connection to a man, husband, brother, or employer, they were flagged as likely to become a public charge. Or worse, suspected prostitutes. Even love could be illegal if you didn't have a marriage certificate. After the Russian Revolution, political suspicion deepened. Immigrants believed to be anarchists or communists were detained, interrogated, or deported. Then came the Immigration Act of 1924. It set strict quotas favoring Northern Europeans and excluding Asians altogether. It wasn't about safety. It was about race, power, and preserving a myth of what American meant. Yet there was resistance. In 1914 alone, over 80,000 appeals were filed to the Board of Special Inquiry, and countless immigrants were saved by the efforts of community organizations like the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society and the Italian Welfare League, who translated, fed, and fought for those lost in the system. Still, even the survivors weren't untouched. Their names, accents, and memories often disappeared with the tides. Let's return to Annie Moore, that first girl. Her statue stands today at Ellis Island, but what of the thousands who left no trace? Some children were adopted by strangers after their parents were deported. Others changed their names, not because officials did it, but but to hide who they were in a land that didn't want to understand them. Yet there was one place where joy broke through the sorrow. At the foot of the Great Hall's staircase was what immigrants called the kissing post. There, families reunited after clearance. Mothers embraced sons. Fiancés kissed through tears. Some wept, some danced. As one inspector recalled, you could tell by the way they hugged whether it was 2 years, 10 years, or forever. Ellis Island closed in 1954, its halls abandoned, its ghosts sealed in silence. But in 1990, it reopened as a museum, a shrine to the journey and the contradictions that shaped a nation. Today, its wall of honor bears over 700,000 names, submitted not by the government, but by descendants refusing to let the past be forgotten. And yet the questions that echoed in those halls still haunt us. Who belongs here? What defines an American? And how much of our identity is built on who we keep out? Ellis Island was never just a port of entry. It was a mirror, and we are still gazing into it. That 6-second glance still echoes across generations. That chalk mark, so easily brushed away, left deeper marks on lives, on memory, on history. Ellis Island was not simply the cradle of the American dream. It was the forge where that dream was bent, tested, and sometimes broken. So we ask you, was your family shaped by this place? Do you carry its legacy in your blood, in your name, in your silence? Tell us in the comments. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned, because the past is not behind us. It's the ground beneath our feet.